That's why I studied atrocity for so long, because I figured if I could find out what the worst thing was, that would be a pointer to the best thing. Because if you know the worst thing, then the opposite of that is the best thing, whatever that is. That doesn't mean you have to propositionalize it. It's not even that easy to do.
And there may be many opposites of that. It may not just be one best possible place on the landscape. There could be many peaks and valleys on the moral landscape. And there could be peaks that are not equivalent in anything but the fact that they are equally distant from the worst possible misery for everyone, right? So there could be, so I'm not, this can sound like moral relativism, but it's not. It's an objective picture of morality.
I don't think it does.
But it's just to say that there may be very different ways of living where given the right kind of minds involved, you could be happy in very strange ways, and in ways that would be counterintuitive for apes like ourselves. But nonetheless, they could be very far from the worst possible misery for everyone. So in any case, I call this. So whatever you want to call navigating in this space, moving away from just unendurable, pointless misery, right, toward beauty and creativity and joy and love and, all of the good stuff we recognize. And again, we haven't seen the horizon of this. We have no idea how beautiful life could be for minds like our own or minds, significantly more sensitive and creative and intelligent than our own. There's no reason.
I had a vision of heaven as a place that was perfect, where everyone that was in it was striving to make it better. Right.
Yeah. So there's some. We don't know how good things can get, and we don't know how bad things can get, but we know they can get quite terrible from our current vantage point, and we know they can get quite wonderful from our current vantage point. And this is where the distance between facts and values collapses for me. There are right.
So let me ask you a question.
Let me just land this final sentence.
Yep.
There are right and wrong answers with respect to how to navigate in this space. Right. There is, and they're right and wrong whether we've discovered them or not. Right. We could all be wrong about the thing we should do next, so as to be as happy as possible. We could think we're doing something very wise and compassionate and useful, and actually we're, slowly poisoning ourselves with some, toxin that we haven't identified. Right. And so there are things. So it is truly possible to not know what you don't know. It's truly possible to not know what you're missing, right? For there to be some happier place on the landscape that you could get to if only you knew to try to get to it. But you're not trying to get to it because you're satisfied, drinking 12 beers a night and, cheating on your wife or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. You could have a whole civilization that is unaware of just...
That's a local peak.
Yeah,
but not
exactly.
A great one.
It's a local peak, but yes, not as good as it might be. So there are two ways to see that this, in my view, that this disconnection between facts and values collapses. First, you need to value certain things in order to get any facts in hand in the first place. Any statement about facts relies on having first valued things like evidence and logical coherence, right? If you don't value logic, there's no logical argument you can give someone to say that they should value it. If someone doesn't value evidence, there's no evidence you could give them to say that they should value it. So epistemology sort of bites its own tail, or picks itself up from its bootstraps.
Right. Although that actually harkens back to the is-ought problem, right? Because right there you said, and I'm not denying the validity of anything you've said so far, but right there you said that without agreeing on the validity of evidence, let's say, there's no agreement about what is. And there we've got a frame problem there, right? We have that value that you need to even determine what is. Well, The question then is, well, where does that value come from? And you can't say, well, it comes from what is in some easy manner, because you just said, unless you have a value of a certain sort, you can't derive what is. And that's partly why this is-ought problem just doesn't seem to go away.
Yeah, but it goes away because it goes away the moment you recognize there is in principle always a mystery at our backs. This is true experientially. I mean, I would say this is true experientially with respect to the nature of consciousness, but it's true conceptually with respect to even those fields that pretend to be most directly in contact with the nature of reality. I mean, so even physics, when you're talking about the most rudimentary laws of physics, right, there has to be a first brute fact or a brute axiom that you accept that need not prove itself, right? There's no self-justifying epistemology.
Yes, well, yes, I believe that. Well, and I think that's why there is an emphasis on faith in some principle in so many religious traditions, is that there is a starting place there, and you're trying to flesh out where that is, at least to some degree.